Oh, there we go, Kytin. You are here. Just accept the link so you can come on as well. Thanks, Rowan, for being here. But thank you. Oh, thank you for the luck. Deeply appreciate it. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Oh, let's see if we can get Kytin to join here. Hold on a second. Let's see what's going on. There we go. You're on.
Ah, okay, wait now. It's on the other. How do I turn the camera? Oh, there we go. Uh, I haven't used Instagram before, Instagram Live.
It takes a bit of getting used to
Ah,
as well, and you end up speaking to yourself for a little while. It's like, okay, well, this is fun.
yeah, and I
Hi,
also had
Nisha.
to give it permission to use the camera and all that jazz. But
I
yeah,
know, right? How you
yeah.
doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are
I'm
you?
so well. I'm so expectant and excited for a conversation with you. It's been long overdue. My goodness me, how long have we been speaking
I
about
know.
doing?
I think the video you made yesterday, 2 years. I think it's been a good 2 years.
I know.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we
Shocking.
did our internship together. So,
I
yeah,
know.
it's been a good 2 years.
I
Crazy.
feel like that's a good place to start, actually, is just kind of backtracking a bit. And I think a big theme that we've been experiencing over the last couple of weeks, and I know we've been speaking about it a lot, is celebrating just how far we've come, as individuals and
Mm,
as the collective and our clients. Because ultimately, I think very often we forget to actually celebrate just how far we've come. And when you look at where we
100%. Yeah.
started to where we are now, goodness me, there's been many versions of ourselves that have had to die along the way. And here we are, totally different people to who we were when we first began. And yeah, so why don't you share a little bit about how you got started and where it all kind of began for you?
So for me, it actually began. I was seeing this therapist, and she gave me a David Icke book to read, which I actually never even read. It just sat there on the bookshelf, and my partner started researching David Icke. She didn't also read the book. The books literally sat on the bookshelf, but she still did some research on him. And through finding David Icke, she found another YouTuber that started speaking about Dolores Cannon, and she ended up going into that. She did the training, the level 1 training, but then she went onto a different path, and then. But I think it all tied together. It was meant to lead me into that space, and if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have went that on that journey. And yeah, and then that's how I found Dolores Cannon was through her. And we had a practitioner who he literally lived 10 minutes away from us. And we both booked sessions and we had our first sessions and it was mind blowing. And yeah, that's how I got into it.
I think sometimes we forget that actually, as practitioners of QHHT, we have actually experienced our own sessions. And I know between you and your
Yeah,
partner, you've done multiple sessions, but I think sometimes we forget that when we're facilitating sessions for clients, just how incredible it is to be on the receiving end of it. And I often think about the sessions that I've had and gone, oh my gosh, like we get the privilege and the joy of having experienced it and to be able to facilitate it. Like, how good does it get when you're able to do both? Like, it's just amazing.
yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. And as you speak about being the client, I myself have a little bit of control issues. So so it's like so at the beginning I started attracting clients like that, that would struggle to go under, that would struggle to give over control. And it's like as soon as I was able to just like let go and allow for the process to happen, then I started attracting clients that would also that would do the same. And yeah, it's always interesting to be on the receiving end of things.
Yeah, and I think it's really true what you're saying about, the state of our being is definitely what we end up magnetizing out. So, you know, like you and I have spoken about many times, there's no such thing as a bad client. There's no such thing as a bad session, because ultimately the session's always going to unfold for the highest good of everyone involved, healer and client, both ends. And I think what I love the most about QHHT is the fact that it's a dual healing. And I think that's the thing with the work that we do. It should always be that we are healing and evolving and growing and holding space of consciousness, but it's also the same for our clients. So it's really, really amazing how much, very often I've had sessions where I've gone, maybe I should be paying you because the session was just so profoundly, it just spoke so deeply to me that I was like, wow, okay, I never in a million years thought that this would be for me. And it really, really was. And I think sometimes we forget that we're in this together, and ultimately being connected to everybody as beings of consciousness, we're all connected. So there's never going to be a situation or a session that we're not affected by in one way or another.
Yeah.
Whether we deem it good or whether we deem it bad, or it went off script or it went as it was meant to. And yeah, I think on that note, like, what would you say has been one of your most challenging sessions?
I think for me, really the people that struggle to give control over, that just that can ease into the process. I think that's the most challenging thing is you know, is showing them that this is not woo-hoo. Like this is actually I like we can all do it. We don't need hypnosis to do this kind of channeling, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
And it's not woohoo. It's like it's embedded into us. Like we are born with this ability to do this kind of things, and it's just I can't remember the question, but I feel like I'm going on a tangent, which is okay. Um, and I think for me, it really is the people that struggle to give control over. And I think it definitely stems from something that I'm attracting, because it did take me a while to like really give give myself into this process. And yeah, and then since then, like as you mentioned, like each session is so profound for us, because there's always something that resonates within the session that the client's having. Like may it be that the high self's giving advice about fear, and then you're sitting with exactly the same kind of fear that the client's dealing with, like let's say financial struggles, and then you're dealing with that fear as a practitioner, and then all of a sudden the higher self comes in and they give you all this beautiful information, and it's like, oh, I need to write this down. I need to like put this in my mind and internalize it and apply it to my own life, and yeah, so I can't remember what the question was. I do hope that I answered it.
Dude, absolutely. And you know what? It's so true. Like, and even, I mean, as you know, having done so many of these sessions as well, is that every single higher self that comes through for communication is so vastly different. And you get the ones that are super comical, you get the ones that are super stern, you get the ones that are like very rigid and very disciplined. And I think that is part of the journey of understanding that we are also intrinsically connected, but we're all so different. And I absolutely adore the diversity that comes through the doors into these sessions, because I would love to say that every single session that I facilitate is the same and that it's going to follow the exact same schedule and practical, and it's just going to go swimmingly according to the prescribed script. But it never does. And I think that's the beauty of it, is that no two sessions ever look the same. So as
Yeah.
practitioners, it's not that we can ever get bored of what we are doing, because it really is most of the time surprise. Like at the end of a session, you're like,
Yeah,
wow, I
100%.
did not expect that. Like I didn't realize it was going to go that way. And it is just so supremely powerful. And I think, you know, for people that don't know what QHHT is, I think we should probably also just touch on what that is, because, you know, it's quite incredible how few practitioners there are in South Africa. I mean, we really are a handful of practitioners in Derbs. I mean, I think there's less than 5 or 6 of us at the moment. So we have the privilege of kind of being in a bit of a, I hate the word niche, but niche market, if you want to call it that. And as you were saying, you know, it's not that anybody can't do what we're doing. Absolutely, you absolutely can. But it's nice to know that there are practitioners available for people to have these facilitated sessions, and we just happen to be them. And so for anybody that kind of doesn't know what QHHT is, it obviously stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Therapy, and it's amazing. So do you want to touch on a little bit of what you found your understanding around QHHT to be for you? Because I know that it's changed and it keeps
Yeah.
changing as we go along.
It's so difficult. Like I was saying to my partner, like it's so difficult to put this work into words. Because I'm doing an event in August, and the lady wanted like a description of what I'm going to be doing, and I'm just thinking, like it took me so long just to articulate what this is, because it's so different for everyone. Like,
Yeah.
if you have someone that is from a religious background, like let's say they're from a Christian background, it's going to be completely different to someone that comes from a different religious background or spiritual background. And um, yeah, it's like it really is different. And I think for me, from my understanding, it's tapping within the
Yeah.
divine, and you are tapping into that energy, and you are able to channel that energy, and you're able to get your beautiful answers for all your questions that you have, and also healing as well, and also just to learn more about you and your soul. And it honestly, like you said, like each session is completely different. Like as you know, I've done multiple sessions for my partner, and honestly, like each session's been completely different. Like from the first one to the last one, it's been so different. And I always find that as the work, as I continue doing this work, I grow with the work, and the work grows with me, and it like all works like in an organic, harmonious way. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's really cool.
very beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, I think as well as obviously with like being an Akashic reader as well, I came to recognize quite early on when I recognized that actually all that QHHT is a channeling from everybody's Akasha. So when I was able to put that together, and then I would have clients that would do both, they would do QHHT and then they would have an Akashic reading. Eventually I had this aha moment where I said to my client the one day, I was like, you do realize that that QHHT session that we did was you channeling from your Akashic records. It is the soul memory of everything you've ever experienced and will ever experience. It's the totality of you. And they're like, oh, so you read for me and I read for me. And it's just this weird understanding that, oh my gosh, all of a sudden there's a moment within the practices that we do that people go, I'm intrinsically powerful. Wow.
Mm.
Like there's this
Yeah.
really beautiful moment where you step back and you look at your clients and they've just got it. They go, oh my gosh, I'm not just this. I'm like so much more than this. And it can even
Mm.
just be from witnessing 3 past lives, that even if they can just comprehend you had that experience, that was you, they go, oh my gosh, wow. And I think sometimes with QHHT, it's those clients that need kind of that tangible, kind of visual understanding that they are that. For us,
Yeah.
it's easier to comprehend because we've kind of been on a journey of these sorts of modalities for a longer time. But for new people into spirituality, for them to comprehend their bigness and their wholeness and their wowness, QHHT is a really beautiful way of doing that, because they get to witness themselves and they get to witness a journey
100%. Yeah.
that they went on.
I find,
Yeah.
sorry, carry on.
No, you carry on.
I was going to say that it's such a person-centered approach. Like they are literally, you were just the facilitator. I always use the analogy that I'm in the back seat and I'm like updating the GPS, and the high consciousness is in the driver's seat, and the client's in the passenger seat, and all I'm doing is handing over this GPS, and the higher self is in the driver's seat, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just sitting there facilitating. And I mean, it is a lot of work as the practitioner, but I mean, most of the work comes from the client and them just
Exactly.
releasing and
Exactly.
just being still in that moment and letting it all unfold.
No, exactly. And I think that is also something that we should really touch on, is that I get a lot of client inquiries because of the fact that within the structure of QHHT, it has the word hypnotherapy in it. So I get a lot of clients phoning me, and I always know that they're divinely led to me anyway. So I know it's a conversation starter where a lot of clients will say, okay, so this is just standard, medical hypnotherapy. I'm going to come to you, you're going to fix me, and then I'm going to leave. And I think what is important to reiterate is that QHHT really is just a facilitated space. It's not
Mm,
that you're coming
mm,
to myself or to Kytin to be fixed. We are in a space
100%. Yeah.
designed to create a space that you can meet yourself, and you are really the only one that's capable of meeting yourself in that space. And the level to which it's going to go is the level to which you're open to receive. And I think a lot of the sessions that I've had big challenges with has been that expectation that they've come in with, that, oh, well, I've watched this video, or I saw this YouTube, or, everyone speaks so highly of Dolores's work and she experienced X, Y, and Z, that they come in with almost this preconceived idea and notion that, well, it'll be the same for me. And I
Mm,
think it's really important to reiterate that, firstly, we're not here to heal you. We would never part with our life force energy in that way, that we would give it away to heal other people, because we're on our own journey of healing ourselves, and that is the priority. We are here absolutely
yeah.
to guide you back to yourselves, but also come into it with no expectations. The clients that have come in with actually the biggest amount of skepticism, but the biggest amount of openness, have had the greatest experiences, because
Mm,
they almost don't believe that anything's going to happen, but they're willing to try. And when it happens in that way, they're blown away. They're literally just like, what have I just experienced? And it is always
yeah.
client's highest good. And I think that it's just reminding yourself that no one here on this planet is meant to heal you. No one. If you are outsourcing your healing to another being in the hope that they will fix you, then you are on the wrong path altogether, because nothing is external to you. And yes, you're going to find amazing practitioners that know how to hold space for you and are able to, yeah, lead you back to you with the tools that you need. But we're not here to heal you directly. So I think that's, I don't know
Yeah.
if you want to add anything to that, because I think it's quite an important kind of point where a lot of society and like
Yeah.
are at the moment, is they want this instant gratification.
I think a lot of people are just tired. All they want to do right now is just heal. Like they're just tired, and it's like almost like a last what am I trying to say? It's almost like they hoping that this will be it, like this is gonna be the thing that's gonna like, heal them completely. And it is a very, very in-depth process. It's very, very emotional. It's very, very taxing on the body and the mind and the soul. Like it's very deep. It's very deep work. And I always tell that to people, like you need to be ready for
Oh,
like for it to
yeah.
be, it is going to be deep. You're going to have to take the whole day off. You can't just go home and go back to work and go into a meeting, and you're going to want to go home, put your pajamas on and relax. Like that's what it's going to be about.
Absolutely.
And I think, people at this point in time, like people are tired. They just want to heal their illnesses. They just want to get answers. And, you know, um, so they see all these things that have happened to or for other people, and they build these expectations. And I also think us as practitioners also have expectations. We think, okay, we're going to get this client, and this is how it's going to go, and this is how it's going to be, and we learn a lot about them. And I think also everyone involved just needs to have absolutely no expectations and just be open and just be raw and authentic. The more open that you are and the more information that you give your practitioner, that it's going to help the session so much. I
Yeah.
I, I think
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
I find that with my own personal journey as well, because I struggle to open up and I struggle to be honest and give information and it's come as a hindrance to myself. And yeah, so I empathize with the clients that are like that as well, because I also struggle myself. And
Yeah.
but as we mentioned, it is a very person-centered approach. It's all about that client tapping into their own power and their own divinity at the end of it,
Yeah.
and yeah, their connection with the divine. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I must say that there is a part of me that feels like I almost wish that we weren't at the bottom of the list, if that makes sense, because at the moment, a lot of the clients that I have or are receiving are a lot of those clients that have kind of got to the point where they're like, we've tried everything. You know, we've tried everything from the medical side of things to the kind of the very mainstream therapies and well, this is kind of a last ditch effort to attempt to feel better or to get the healing that we desire. And I think that I definitely can see the difference between the clients that have their spiritual practice and their everyday connection to spirituality, even if they are very new in the beginning of their awakening. They're aware that, oh my gosh, you know, there is magic all around us. Whereas I find that those clients that are coming in that are more medically minded, more disconnected, if you want to call it that, from their spirituality, have a lot more of a harder time kind of allowing themselves to go into the realms of higher consciousness because they're not really connected to it. But what I must say is that that must never be a limitation for anybody that wants to receive or have a QHHT session facilitated, because I have had so many clients come in for QHHT, and although they may stay primarily in the past of this lifetime, it's healing because they're able to
Yeah.
revisit the wounds that occurred in the past of this lifetime, even if it doesn't feel like a what quote unquote true past life regression. It is. It's the past of this lifetime. It's a regression. It's a regression into a time
Mm.
that has been. So I find with those clients, a lot of this time they are able to go into the wounds of this lifetime and really sit with them and alchemize them in a QHHT session. And yes, the higher consciousness communication might not be as detailed or as in depth as those that are more practice in connecting to their higher selves, but it is always still so tangible. And so I would never ever say to anybody that's kind of sitting on the fence with QHHT going, oh, I have to be spiritual to have this experience. I would say to you, give it a go, because
Mm.
you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere in connecting
100%. Yeah.
with yourself and into your wounds. And ultimately, regardless of how the QHHT session goes, you are in a space of higher consciousness. You're in a space that is aligned to your practitioner. Both Kytin and I put in a lot of effort to maintain our journey of healing and alchemy and being the best version of ourselves, even at times when it is really tough, to be able to offer a space to our clients where they feel safe and they feel secure. And it's a space where they can be vulnerable and raw and real and meet themselves there. So never feel like you are limited by, you know, this kind of pressure that people put on themselves to be a certain spiritual person, because that's just not the case. Every single one of us intrinsically is connected by the heart. Every single one of us
Mm.
has a heart. So that makes you just as spiritual as anybody else, because we are all the same. So that was
Yeah.
kind of a big thing that came through for me the last couple of days as I've been preparing is this is not limited. This is not a modality that is limited to those that are in the know, those that are in connection with their higher selves and, you know, believe in miracles. It's really not. It's for anybody that has the willingness and the intention to meet themselves and heal. And if you don't have that intention, that's also okay. Come and see. Let it unfold exactly as it needs to for your highest good, because the chances are you would never have been led to find us if it wasn't meant for your journey. And that's what I'm starting to realize is that I've had clients phone me and say to me, Candace, I have been looking for a QHHT practitioner for 3 years and I have been Googling every single month and your name has never come up. But all of a sudden, today's the day that Candace appears on Google. And I'm like, well, it's obviously meant to be. And it's not that I haven't been there. I've been there, but no one's been able to find me
Mm.
because it wasn't the right time. So I always really trust that
Yeah.
if
All in divine timing. Yeah.
absolutely, then we're meant
Yeah.
to create some sort of magic together, and whatever that might be, let's go and see what we're going to do together. And then aside from the QHHT, I know that you are busy doing other coaching and facilitating retreats and all sorts of other stuff. What have you been up to?
So at the moment, I'm actually doing a course. It's a end of life doula course, to help the dying as well as the families that are involved in
Oh,
experiencing a loved one that's ready to pass on and transition over.
Wow.
So I'm still in the midst of all of that. So I will probably complete that at the end of March, and then I'll do my internship, and then dive deeper into that realm and helping and putting that out there and offering it to the people and helping the people through that. And
Yeah.
but
What
yeah,
got
I definitely am. What were
no, I
you gonna ask?
say, like, what got you interested in assisting with passing over? A lot of people are going to go, oh my,
Um,
why would you want to do that? But I can absolutely see the beauty in that transition and
hmm.
preparation for what's next to come.
I think for me, it was all about doing QHHT because you get to witness when you go into past lives, people transition out of the body and into like the spirit realm, and we as humans have unfortunately deemed death with a negative connotation, and it's like scary and fearful, and everyone has his own ideas of where their loved ones are going and how they're going and what they're like, what's happening. And I think, with the QHHT work, it really, really opened up my eyes to that evolved to the point that death isn't scary. It's as beautiful as birth. It's such a natural process, and that's what I would like for me getting into this work is to help people as they're going through this process to realize that it's not scary. It's actually beautiful. You're going to pass on and transition, and you're going to be one with the divine again, and you aren't limited by the body anymore, and you can travel and you can enjoy things even more freely, and yeah, and it's such a beautiful process. I think that's what led me to it. And also, living here in where I live, down in Margate, there is primarily a lot of elderly folk, and and I think it's very much needed here. I think a lot of the elderly folk are in a space of fear, and they have no idea what's happening. A lot of families live elsewhere, a lot of their loved ones live elsewhere, and they're going through this transition alone. And yeah, and I think it's awesome to be there as a companion for these
Oh,
individuals
that's
as
amazing.
they transition over.
I don't
Yeah.
think, I mean, that was one of the greatest things for me with QHHT was, you can kind of go into your first session having been told, like, you're going to experience this and you're going to witness this and it's going to be deeply profound. But I think the greatest thing for me was recognizing that death is not painful.
Mm,
Everybody goes on about how death is going to be incredibly painful, and when you transition over, it's this big thing and it's awful and it's scary and it's this, that, and the other. And I'm always mind blown by the fact that when I witness death in past life regression, how it can be the most brutal, brutal way to die. And I mean,
yeah.
I have witnessed some brutal deaths, but there is never, ever anything other than peace. Never ever. I
Yeah.
never have my clients saying, I'm in pain, I'm in this, I'm in that. There is never this longing of suffering or this pity or the shame or anything. It's just, I know I'm gonna pass now and I'm at peace.
Mm.
And it blows my
Yeah.
mind. You've just been exploded into 100 pieces of shrapnel and you're at peace?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah, and sometimes
And I'm just like,
I'll be like,
wow.
how do you feel leaving? How do you feel leaving the body? And I'll be like, well, I feel good. Like, and as humans, we think it's so scary. Like, we're so scared of death, and I think it's just conditioning. It just boils down to conditioning,
Yeah.
um and what we've witnessed, and that's what brings about the fear. But wow, death is actually such a beautiful, beautiful
It
transition.
really is. I mean, if I
Mm.
think about some of the really gnarly death experiences that I've witnessed, I'm like, oh, this kind of gives me peace and hope to know that it really just doesn't matter how we go. Because even within my past life regression, like one of the experiences that I had was having hot oil poured over me and then being set alight by a fire arrow. It was not painful. It was not scary. It was, I'm going now. Cool. You know, like I
Yeah.
think we limit ourselves by really experiencing our experience as the totality of the body. That sometimes we forget actually the body is just a tiny part of the soul. And when we're able to understand that we are not the totality of the body, that we are so much bigger than that, then death is no longer scary because ultimately we have decided already what it is that we're going to come in and do. Like we made those contracts and we sit and we have our soul boardroom meeting and we go, okay, in this lifetime, I'm actually going to jump off a building that's 100 stories tall and crash to the ground. And that sounds like great fun. And, you know, it sounds very flippant saying it that way, but it's exactly how we contract experiences. And I mean, I
Yeah.
remember one of the first ever QHHT sessions being one of the first deaths. And I mean, I'm new to this now, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember someone being run over by a horse and carts, and that was the way they died. They were literally mauled by a horse and cart carriage. It was 4 horses plus the carriage. And I remember so intrinsically they saying to me, like, I'm literally splattered into pieces right now. And I'm sitting there going, wow, I've got full visual of this going on. And they're like, but I'm at peace. And I'm going, whoa, like you can't
Mm.
make this stuff up. Like sometimes in our sessions, it's almost as though we get to have our own personal viewing of the most amazing cinematic films because
Yeah,
the stuff that
100%.
out in these experiences is like, no ways. And I think the best part is when our clients are going, no ways, because a lot of the time they recognize past loved ones or they recognize animals and things like that. And they're like, no freaking ways. Or they recognize that there's actually characteristics of their now life that they go, that can't be. And it is. It's like,
Mm.
wow. So, I mean, I
And
think that there is, yeah, so much joy
it's
in it.
always so it's always so interesting when you transition from the past life to the higher self and you can that connection and you ask the higher self, why did you choose to show them that lifetime? And then they give all this beautiful, profound information as to why, and then you learn the correlation between that past life and then what's happening in this lifetime for them. And it's always so beautiful. Like they always like I feel it's like they always just map it out so beautifully. Like it all just flows so organically. It's not like it's like everything just makes sense. And then while you're going through it, it's like, okay, trying to figure it out. Like you're seeing all this well, you know, you're not seeing it, but you're hearing all this beautiful things, and hectic stuff that the client is verbalizing and then you transition over to the higher stuff and then they like, oh well, this is why we showed her that, this is why, this is how it relates, this is what she needs to do and all the rest of it. And it's such a profound life-changing experience. I personally think QHHT is like
No, it
life-changing.
is. I mean, I've shared with you in one of my QHHT sessions that I had was, you know, understanding that once we witness a past life and we integrate the lessons of that past life, that it then dissolves in this now experience. And that can be from disease, illnesses, injuries that are related to past life trauma. They just dissolve. And I think what I want to share is a little bit to do with my experience of that, because I mean, I've had so many clients that have also received healing during the sessions, and I know that you have as well. But for me, the most crazy story, and I mean, I have no problem sharing this because as I speak it out, you're going to go, what? But I used to have the most irrational fear of oranges or any citrus fruit, actually. Like, I couldn't, I
Okay.
couldn't, I couldn't peel them. I couldn't eat them. I couldn't smell them. I could not. Like it would make me literally want to vomit or cry. Okay. My brother used to get great joy chasing me around the house with like an orange peel, squirting it at me, thinking it was just so hysterical. But anyway, that aside. And I had my QHHT session, obviously went into my past life regression. And it turned out that in that particular lifetime, I had been an orchard worker. So I'd been picking oranges, grapefruit, whatever, all day, every day. Great job. But in this particular lifetime, I had been bitten by a snake and I actually died. And what was interesting is that I don't have a fear of snakes, but the association of the lifetime of being an orchard picker for citrus fruit left the residue of fear around that. So
Mm.
actually, the death of the snake killing me that should have been the fear, but it came through as the residue of the citrus. And as I was able to integrate that, I came out of my QHHT session, and I can now do everything to do with citrus. I can drink orange juice, I can peel nachos, and I don't have a problem. So it's really so interesting when you start to recognize, oh my gosh, like that's why I am the way I am, or that's why I have an irrational fear. Because the majority of irrational fears come from past lives. They really, really do. I mean, I've seen so
100%.
many
Yeah.
phobias come up from past lives where it's like, that now makes sense. You know, where you have had clients that have drowned, or you've had clients that, I mean, I've had a client that had swimmer's shoulder in this lifetime, where from the day that she was born, she's had issues with her shoulders, and she could never understand why. And she was forever going to physio, forever at the chiro, until she did a past life regression, and she had been shot in her shoulder blades from behind. The whole, like, obviously a whole long other story to it. But that residue of that death came into this lifetime as swimmer's shoulder. And as soon as she was able to integrate that, her injury completely dissolved. So it's really incredible,
100%.
the things that we get to
You know,
witness.
as you mentioned, integrating it, it actually, that's what the client has to do. You know, they have to listen to their recording. They have to do the work. You can't just like think after your session, oh, I'm fixed. The eyes will fix me. My shoulder's great. You have to actually believe that this has happened. You know,
Yeah.
if you don't believe it, you're gonna still continue going onwards and forthwards with your broken shoulder. And it really also boils down to you integrating it into your
Yeah.
lifestyle and believing and having faith that this is what has occurred for you. And if you don't put in the work and you don't, like, they always give like the high self always gives beautiful advice, you know, this is what she needs to do, this is what they need to do, whatever, but it's all about integrating.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you utilizing that information to become your higher self in essence, and also, as I mentioned, believing. You have to believe that.
100%. 100%. And I think as well, like I did a video yesterday on my story about, if you've had a session, go listen to your recording, because you know, so often we think that we're going to remember everything that came up, but you just don't. And I recently
Mm,
listened to my recording, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I had totally forgotten about that. And it was so prevalent to my now experience. I was like, wow, 3 years later, I'm like, okay, cool, there's still wisdom in this. So I think a lot of my clients need to be reminded to go listen to your recording again and again and again. And also in listening
100%.
to the recording, so laced with higher consciousness, because you're not operating in a third dimensional space when you do these sessions. It's really not. Like I don't know where I go during QHHT sessions with my clients, but it's definitely not here in the 3D plane. Like it is, you can feel the tangible shift of the consciousness in the air around you and the dimensional shift. It is breathtakingly beautiful. And I mean, I've had, like I've told you, I've had the weirdest occurrences during my sessions, whereby, you know, I've gone to send recordings to clients, and all of a sudden they've messaged me to say, Cans, you won't believe this, but during the recording, there's like a 1 minute interlude of old fashioned record music playing. And she said, and that was the music from my regression. And I'm like, holy moly. And then recently I had a client, I think I was telling you about it, who we past life regressed, and her phone was off. She had switched her phone off at the beginning of the session. During the session, it started ringing, and it rang probably 5 or 6 times. And I was like, no, man, I'm just going to ignore it. And I had to hold it together. And she luckily didn't come out of the space that she was in. Afterwards, I said, do you recognize, or did you remember that your phone rang? She said, no, I didn't. Oh my gosh, but it
Mm,
was off. I don't understand. So anyway, she ended up checking the number. She's like, I don't recognize this number. It's an international number. So we Googled, we Googled the number of the call, where it came from. And it turned out it was the country that she had been in the past life regression at the point that she had been phoned. And I showed her the video
interesting.
on the first thing of Google images of this country, and she was like, that's where I was. I was like, I know. we were just like, what the actual, like, it was just the most. And the thing is, there's nothing that you can do with that information. You just literally have to smile and go, you know what, cool. Like, thank you, universe,
Mm.
for that little bit
It's
of
just
magic.
affirming. It's just like affirmate, like affirming that like she's on the right path and she's doing the right things at the right time, and it's all in accordance with the universe. And yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. And it's you know, you can put it into words like how you just expressed it, but a lot of these things you cannot put into
No,
words. Like a lot of the experiences, the synchronicities, and all these things you can't articulate it into words at all. And
no.
even if you try, you sound like a bumbling idiot
Or you
trying to explain it
sound
all.
like you're totally
Um,
crazy, like when you witness your clients levitating upon the bed, and you're like, yeah, my client was literally a good 10 centimeters off the bed, and it's like people just look at you like, I would love to believe that that's true. And it's like, well, I saw it with my own two eyes. Whether you believe me or not, it just doesn't matter. But I mean, it's that is the space of magic that we're working in, is anything is possible at that point. And yeah, what are some of the most profound experiences that you've had within your sessions? I'm always curious.
um, for me, honestly, it's you know, with the clients, it's always been profound because there's always a lot of clients that come in that have similar difficulties that I'm dealing with. But for me, the most profound has to be my partner sessions because they always have so much information within those sessions that are for me. And you know, we've tapped into that her higher self is one of my guides, and
Oh,
my higher self is one of her guides. And we've gathered so much information, and I think it's you know, it's difficult to put it onto one thing, but I think the one that's always so interesting is the lives as animals. Because you know we always think about past lives going into past lives as humans.
right.
But when you know when you have an incident where you go to one where it's as an animal, and you get to like witness that perspective, and not even just animals, just a piece of rock, like just a
Or a
seed in the ground,
volcano.
and yeah, just like like things that we wouldn't assume is consciousness or alive. Like we'll look at a rock and be like, oh, it's just a rock. But there's consciousness. There's a living being within that rock, and I think it always challenges our own human belief
Yeah,
system and our own conditioning. And I think that's always the profound ones is that when it challenges my own
yeah,
belief
yeah.
system, that's where it gets me.
Yes. And,
Yeah.
you know, along with that, I mean, you know, we can kind of comprehend the consciousness of like grass and rocks and volcano and dirt. But I think some of my most incredible sessions have been off-planet beings, because
Mm.
it's just like, what? And it's just insane when you start working with other starseed races, because ultimately we've had experiences as that as well. It's like, no ways. And the beautiful thing as a practitioner is that you can't then guide it in the same way of, okay, take me to your kitchen. And they're like, well, we don't consume food the same
Yeah.
way that you do. It's like, well, oh, okay, like, what are we going to do here? And then you really have to surrender into, like, I don't know where the hell I am. I don't know where the hell you are. Let's go explore. And it is just incredible, the experiences that we have all had in the varying degrees of soul incarnations, whether it is on this planet, another planet,
100%, yeah.
whatever. And I think it really, for me, really reaffirms just how incredibly multidimensional and multifaceted we are. Like, we as human
Mm.
beings limit ourselves hugely into believing that we are just this. Like, oh my word, if you could possibly understand what you have been up to in the eons and eons of millennia that you've been doing this, you would never ever play small again. And I
Yeah,
think that, like, we all
100%.
with that, we all play small, we all play far too small. um
Mm.
but just to witness those experiences, it really just solidifies, like, wow, like, we have had to endure so much, but also on the other side of that, we have also contributed to some really incredible things too. You know, like a lot of the kind of multi-dimensional starseed lives that I see, it's building cultures, it's creating technologies, it's instant healing, and it kind of gives you that sense of wow, like we are beings that can pretty much do it all. Like we're amazing, you know, and even the perspective of
Yeah.
like their unconditional love and the way that they see the world and their consciousness and their soul's evolution is so different to the human being. Like
Yeah.
animals,
I
like the incarnation
agree.
that we witness as animals are, they're probably one of my most favorite, really truly, because
Mm.
just their perspective on everything is unbelievable. I mean, I remember doing a session of it was a dog that was used as a dog fight bait dog, and the perspective of the level of compassion that the soul had for the human owner, even though it was being put into fighting dens, I was like blown away, you know. So it's just so incredible to see
Mm.
every kind of dynamic to it. And then you obviously have people that come in as trees or as grass or as volcanoes, and then you're like, oh my word.
And just to touch on to what you were saying is, you know, from our human perspective, we believe that we are living linearly,
Yeah.
but we are actually doing all these things at the same time right now. So we are, as you mentioned, multidimensional beings, and we are doing so many other things. It's just that we are just like honed in on this lifetime and viewing things from this perspective.
Mm.
But in essence, our soul is everywhere, literally everywhere. You could be sitting next to a tree. That's also you, you know. It's like literally, and it's so difficult to grasp because we are in the physical, we're in the 3D, we're in this tangible realm of things. But in essence, we are just such magical, multi-dimensional beings. I can give you an example. In one of my partner sessions, she was just this energy, and she was taken to the space where this guy was, he was committing suicide. And she was tasked with just being a presence there. And she was witnessing his suicide because he was alone. And the higher self mentioned that they placed her there so she could be a witness and a presence to be there. And also another reason why they showed her was to help her understand that this is all the other things that she's busy doing. She doesn't need to just focus on this life and get so caught up in this life. The soul is doing so many other things. Like when I say so many, I mean like infinite, like infinite,
I know.
like so
I
many.
mean,
Yeah.
laugh how often like when we go to sleep at night, how we think we close our eyes and we go to this magical dreamland that we think is just like our thoughts. It's a, you know, it's a continuation of the
Mm,
day. And then I'll do QHHT or I'll do an Akashic reading, and it, you know, it goes into details around kind of the astral traveling that people are doing in their sleeping space. And it's a, you know, it's a parallel experience, and you are getting up to a lot in that space. And I think, yeah, I mean, I'm still grasping with my multidimensionality. Like I even still have days where I'm like, no, it's too much for me to comprehend. But I think that when you start living this life with the eyes of magic and being willing to see more than what you're seeing, I think that's when you start to open yourself up to possibilities and understanding that, sure, there is just so much more around us than we can possibly even begin to imagine, you know?
mm,
And I always, you know, I think the biggest thing with spirituality as well is that there's no good reason why you would make up stuff. You know what I mean? Like I have always known and I've always believed in the dragons, in the elementals, in the angels, always from a very, very young little girl. And I've always had that. I've just always known that they exist. And, you know, very often people will say, well, you know, you don't see them, you don't, you know, whatever. And I'm like, but I do. I feel them. I feel their presence. I feel their energy. And then within QHHT sessions, we witness them, we see them. And I think
mm.
just there's an element of what harm is there in believing and holding hope in magic. It's not that you're wanting to create anything harmful. It's not that you're wanting to believe in anything nefarious or, you know, not okay. You know,
Yeah.
we're not trying to create
Yeah.
seances and pull in whatever dark entities. This is,
Mm.
I want to believe in magic. I want to believe in all the magic, and why the hell not? You know,
I
and
think it
mm,
I think it boils down to our senses because we can't see it, then we believe that it's not there.
yeah.
But as spiritual beings, we can feel it. Like there's so many other different senses. You know, when you get goosebumps, when you get the chills, when you get little butterflies that fly past you, like those,
Mm,
that's
yeah.
it. You know, it doesn't have to be something that you have to tangibly see with your own
Yeah.
eyes. You can use your other senses. You can use your hearing, your touch,
Yeah.
your taste as well, your smell, your like it comes in so many different shapes and sizes. Like it's not just sight, it's not just your sight.
Yeah. But
So it's also feeling as well.
yeah, but I think, you know, the beautiful thing is you have to get to that space of recognizing synchronicities. Like I know so many people that will be like, "Oh yeah, I see triple numbers all the time." Like, "Pff, what is that?" You know, but they don't put two and two together. And I think once you start putting two and two together and you're like, "Wow, okay, I'm actually divinely guided right now." You know, like I'm seeing angel numbers everywhere. There's synchronicities. I'm noticing really strange time anomalies where time stands still or even goes backwards at times. You know, then you start to go, okay, there's so much more at play in this dimension than I probably could have ever imagined. You know, and I think it's even with your recent car experience where you had the triple four, like we are so divinely guided. You know, we really, really are. And it's, you know, it's the white feathers, it's the butterflies, the dragonflies, the animals, the beings, your intuitive nature of your pets when they just come and give you a love for no particular reason. It's like, well, yeah, actually I'm held by the universe. And there are so many custodians around me, supporting me, nurturing me, holding me, and guiding me. And
Yeah.
synchronicity is one of the greatest ways of, you know, so many people will go onto Google and they'll be like, what does triple one mean? Or what does double four mean? Or, you know, why am I having this dream? And they'll search for an answer outside of themselves when actually a long time ago I came to the point of realizing that actually it's just a confirmation. Like you said earlier, it's a confirmation that you are on the right path, or it's a universal nudge to go, you know what, you're held and you're loved, and we're here and we're supporting you and we're guiding you. You know,
Yeah.
very often you'll have,
100%.
yeah, like you'll have an idea about, okay, I'm thinking of, I don't know, meeting this person or having this new modality or whatever. And all of a sudden you'll just get that confirmation where it's like, okay, you know, a butterfly will land on you or you'll see something. And it's just that, oh, thank you. You know, like I'm whole. That's very awesome. And I think one of my biggest encouragements to everyone is ask. Ask the universe.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
have been too many times to count now where I've literally, if I haven't been certain in my own divination tools of whatever the pendulum or meditation or prayer, I will say to the universe, I need a song or I need a sign or I need a word or I need something really tangible, like hit me in the face with it because I need to know that this is the right path. And then you get it. You really, really do get it. So my
Mm.
advice
And
always,
it's all about being conscious and aware of it. Like if you're sitting there on your phone and you're not present in the moment and you know, or you just brush it off, you just brush it off the experience. It's all about living consciously and present in the moment and also believing. Honestly, it stems from believing. Like if you get the message via your mind and it sounds exactly like your voice in your mind, but you know that's not something that you would actually say, believe it. Believe that it's another being that's communicating with you. And it really just boils down to being conscious and your belief system and um, and just being present in the moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And if you had to give any pearls of wisdom from your experience, what would your advice be around cultivating a more conscious, present experience? What would be your tangibles? What would you go to?
Um, I, I would say, now that's something I'm gonna have to think about. Um,
Putting you on the spot here.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, repeat the question again.
So basically, someone says to you, how can I be more present? How can I be more conscious? How can I connect with my higher self more? What would you say?
Okay. I would personally say to them, sit in nature, because I think that's where it all comes from, is that you're away from technology, you're away from, okay, obviously there's still gonna be some sort of frequencies and the Wi-Fi's and all that jazz. But if you can sit in nature and if you can be amongst without your phone, without any distractions, without anything, just sit still in nature for that moment and just be present in that moment and just observe. You don't even have to close your eyes. You don't have to sit in a specific position. You don't have to lay down. You can just sit there and observe
Yeah.
and just just let it all unfold because I think nature is um,
Yeah.
such a beautiful um, aspect to work with because it's like the truest connection to the divine, I believe. And yeah, that's what I would say. I would say definitely sit in nature because like I'm sitting here and I'm staring out the window, and it's just like I can feel like the energy is just ramping up as the wind blows. I can see all the beautiful insects, as you mentioned, the dragonflies, the butterflies. The dragonfly just hit the window. It's like all these things, and that's where you can get your most healing is with earth, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me, one of like nature's absolutely number one. If I'm really, really struggling to feel like I'm grounded and anchored and connected, nature is my absolute go-to. And we're here to be held by the Divine Mother. So being out in nature is one way of really connecting with that feminine energy. And also then in tandem share like receiving the father energy as well, and it's just a beautiful duality. But I think for me, one of the greatest pieces of advice that I would give to people looking to cultivate presence and consciousness is to stop trying to escape the body. A lot of we used to be in a time of new age hippies where the coolest thing to do would be to trance out, bliss out, have that marijuana joint and just get the hell out of the body and, transcend any thoughts, feelings, whatever in the body and just go and be in bliss. And I think within this lifetime, one of the greatest things that we need to do and we have to do is to come into the physical body, because the body is what is holding
Mm,
onto the trauma and the density that is making you feel like you are heavy. So naturally, as a byproduct of being in nature, you are going to discharge and offladen any dense energy with intention. You can literally stand with your feet on the earth and ask Mother Earth to help you in releasing dense energy that no longer serves your highest good. Boom, done. And then the other thing is about
mm.
coming into your body, breathing into your body, noticing and witnessing what is going on in your body. Do you have any areas where there is discomfort, any pain, any weirdness, and just be with it as a very curious witness as to, wow, okay, this is what's going on in my body. Because I think a lot of the time, even within our physical bodies, we'll go, okay, I have a headache, let me take a Panado. But we'll never sit with our headache and go, why is this here? Is it teaching me something? Does it need to be here? What do I need to learn? And our bodies are the greatest teachers for us in our evolution and in our presence cultivation, because when you can breathe into your body and be with every cell in your body, every muscle, every bone, every being part of you, you are in the greatest consciousness right there, right then. And breath work is a beautiful way of doing that, because ultimately, the air around us is just not, it's not just oxygen. It is consciousness. We are breathing in consciousness every moment of every day, which means that we are breathing in potentiality in every single breath. So when we start to understand that when we are breathing, we're breathing in miracles. We're breathing miracles into our body. We're breathing healing into our body. We're breathing release into our body. We can start to understand that we are so much more supported than we think we are, and we have a lot more tools at our disposal right here, right now. Like we don't have to
Yeah,
overcomplicate, you know.
100%. Yeah.
And I've said to you so often that one of the things that really grates me is how complicated spirituality has become. You know, it's like, oh, you can only be spiritual if X, Y, Z. And then you do end up with the mentality of people asking, you know, I'm not vegan, can I do yoga? And it's like, well, how as a society has there become this inverted spiritual matrix whereby we now believe these sorts of things, you know, like what? When did that happen? It's just absolutely insane. And I think we need to simplify going back to our roots, connecting into our physical body, connecting into Mother Earth, and then cultivating a space of peace and quiet where you can actually surrender and listen to the still small voice inside of you. Whether it is a resounding boom of God Source Creator or whether it is just your intrinsic higher self helping you out, you will find that place within you. And it's not about needing to bypass the chatterbox mind. It's about dropping into your heart and understanding that the voice resides there. It's never going to be in your mind. And I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, is that they want to switch off their brain. They want to switch off their thinking. They want to switch off the noise. But actually, even doing that, if you're not dropping into your heart, you're never going to hear anything. You've got to drop into your heart and allow the ego
Yeah.
to do what it wants to do. It's going to carry on. But what I love about the ego is it doesn't recognize when you've dropped into your heart because you've gone in through the back door, and it's none the
Mm.
wiser. So the more that we
I,
drop
I
into our heart, the more we can bypass the ego in that way.
So just to add on to what you're saying, like for me personally, what I like to do is have this dialogue in my mind.
Love it.
And it's almost like we're like a whole group of people in my head. I know it sounds a bit crazy, but it's like, utilizing the ego as the questioner.
Yeah.
So the ego is the one that's asking the questions, and then you just listen and you just sit there and you listen to the dialogue that's happening back and forth, and it just becomes this whole profound little conversation in your mind, and it's always so beautiful. And it's always you can use the ego to your advantage. You don't have to shut it up. You don't have to push it to the side. It can be the questioner. It can also be the observer,
Yeah.
and it can be the one um, that hones in on what you're trying to look for, because that's who you are. You are the human body right now, and you are in this experience. So utilize that that ego, utilize the body, utilize, as you mentioned, the body is such a great messenger. When we feel different pains and different discomforts and different illnesses, that's the body's way of communicating with us. And just use it. Just use it all. Use it all to your advantage. You don't have to shun anything away. You can use it all, and in order to live your best,
Mm.
highest timeline.
And I think,
Yeah.
important on that is the fact that a lot of people ignore their intuition. And a lot of the time, your intuition is directly linked to a full body response. If you actually tune into your physical body, and even with the questions of, I need to go have a cup of coffee with a friend of mine that is really toxic. And your whole body is going, no, don't do it. But you're going, okay, I'll see you in 5 minutes. It's like the more that we connect into our physical body and we recognize the responses of our physical body to people, places, and things, the more that we are going to be guided naturally by our intuition, by a higher consciousness. So I always say to my clients, what is your body saying about this? Because it's trying to get your attention. And I mean, as well with QHHT, in terms of everything within illness, accidents, and injuries is a message in our physical body. So at any given point, you are able to tap into your physical body and figure out what is going on. Obviously with Soul Speak, it's very much about left side of the body being past life, right side being this now moment and the past of this life. But we're able to really understand that our body is the messenger of the things that we're not integrating when they're going, hey, we're trying to get your attention. And I love the fact that even things like car accidents and things like that is also a message. If you're being rear-ended, or if you come to an abrupt halt, or if you're getting flat tires or no power. There's all these messages that we're receiving each and every single day around what is it that we need to be doing in this now moment. And I always laugh because when I do hurt myself, or if I happen to cut myself or I bump my head, the first thing I'll be like, well, initially I'll be annoyed. I'll be like, really, was that necessary? Like, you could have got my another way. and then also, okay, what is the lesson in this? What am I not doing right now? What do I need to be doing? And a lot of the time
Yeah.
it's slow down, or you're panicking, or you're going into fear, or whatever. Um, so I'd always encourage people to really look at the messages that they're receiving through their physical body, because there is so much that we can learn. It's
100%, yeah.
it really, really is.
It's like that saying, why, instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this teaching
What
me?
is the lesson?
And I think it's, yeah, what is the lesson? And, we get so caught up in the human experience, like when our cars are losing power and it's giving warnings and this and this and this and this happens. And we're like, now I'm stuck here. Now I can't do but there's always a message. There's always a lesson behind it. There's always something. And it's, so instead of like, dipping into the negative side of things and perceiving it as negative, you can use it to your advantage and, make it a positive, make it something that you perceive as a positive experience. And even though you might deem it as negative,
And if I
but there
feel
isn't such a
negative,
thing as, yeah, but that's the thing. It isn't meant to be negative. We get so caught up in the negative and the positive. And if something isn't sitting well with us, it's negative. And then we like that's it. But at the end of the day, it all plays a part. Every single thing. It all plays its part and it's all part of the process.
yeah, absolutely. And I think as well is that we also forget very often that a lot of the course redirections that we experience in these experiences of the negative or things not going to plan is actually saving us from a greater experience that would have been more harmful. So a lot of the time, if we really think about it, that reroute on the highway was actually stopping you sitting in hours and hours of a traffic jam, or you just decided not to go to that particular event because you were sick, and all of a sudden you hear about X, Y, and Z happening, and you were saved from experiencing something that would have been even more awful or even more challenging.
Mm,
So a lot of the time we have to accept that, course redirect is just that. It's just a redirection. It's not that there's anything massively wrong. It's just a redirect. And when you are surrendered in understanding that the universe is always unfolding everything for your highest good, whether it is just uncomfortable, horrible, difficult to challenge and absorb, like everything is always unfolding for your highest good. So when you start to recognize that, you recognize nothing actually matters. It's going to happen whether you want it to or not, because we are divinely led beings. So when we can drop into the space,
yeah.
I'm so excited, bring it on. How can I grow? In the discomfort, I grow. In this uncomfortable place, I grow. And I just want to grow. You start to recognize that everything that happens is actually for your highest good, even
Yeah.
when it's. And I have to remind myself of that all the time when I am so uncomfortable. And I'm like, no,
Yeah, me
no more.
too.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
growing. I'm growing. I may not see the bigger perspective of things right now, but it's happening for me. It's not happening to me. And it's happening with me. I'm actively participating in this. And also, in some way or another, I've created this.
Yeah, you're the
That's the part that I
co-creator. You're part
struggle
of
to
it,
accept
yeah.
at times.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so difficult because we get so caught up in our conditioning and the belief system and this human experience. But, if we can just surrender and trust and just be and just, express gratitude for what we do have and what
Absolutely.
I think it's so important to express gratitude. I mentioned to you that we didn't have water here for 8 days, but we were so grateful that we have a car, we have access to a borehole nearby. We can go there, we can go fill our bottles. But it was a painful experience, like carrying all these things and not having water. But I think on the last day, my partner did have a little bit of a meltdown, but throughout that whole experience, we just did what we needed to do and just stayed strong through it and just were grateful for what we do have, and that's what it's all about, is just expressing gratitude for what we do have.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. And I think that is the greatest lesson in life, is that if you truly want to walk in purpose and you truly want to follow your path, it's about showing up in humility, understanding that you are going to get it wrong. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to upset people. You're going to piss people off. You're going to really look at yourself and go, whoa, you really didn't handle that very well, and feel like a one-dimensional being at times. And that's totally okay, because from the space of humility, you can recognize that you operated in that way and it wasn't great, but you know what, you get an opportunity to do it again and forward give yourself. You can do it differently. And I think it's really about showing up authentically and showing up exactly where you're at. So if you are in the muck and mire of challenge and tribulation, show up there. You don't have to always be okay. Yes, it's not okay to project your pain onto other people and not take responsibility for where you're at, but absolutely, in authenticity, show up when you are hurting, show up in your pain, show up in your challenges, and own it, because it's okay to not be okay. And I think that with that comes then the cultivation of sovereignty, being your own governance, being your own voice of reason, being your own authority, being your own free will leader. I think is kind of the overflow of being humbly authentic, because then you start to recognize that actually you are the power and authority in your life. And I mean, sovereignty is a conversation for another day, because my goodness me, we are so programmed to believe that we are powerless. But yeah, I think that humble authenticity and gratitude, absolutely, the quickest way of moving out of anxiety, depression, sadness, difficulty, pain, is to just find one thing that you are grateful for, truly, truly, truly grateful for. And then when you find yourself in a panic attack, and I do this often, is okay, one thing that I'm grateful for. Can I find another thing? Can I find another thing? And when you start to move from that space of anxiety into a space of, in this difficult place, I'm going to find something that I'm grateful for, it's amazing how quickly you can start to breathe, you can start to calm down, and you start to recognize, actually, I'm okay. I'm okay. And there is still so much good in my life, because very often we become kind of consumed by the story we tell ourselves. And that story is not always positive. It's, I don't have money, I don't have a job, I don't have prospects, I don't have motivation, I'm ill, and this and that. And we forget that actually every single one of us as a living human being right now has something to be grateful for. Every single
Yeah.
one of us, regardless of our hardship. And yes, there are going to be beings that are having an exceptionally hard time, but every single one of us has something that we can say we're grateful for today. And even if that is just being able to have the lungs to breathe in the oxygen that we do, So yeah, gratitude is a massive, massive way of moving
Yeah.
into and
It's all
reconnecting.
about changing the narrative. Yeah, changing the narrative and working with yourself. Like it's not gonna, you're not just gonna wake up and everything's gonna be hunky dory. Like it's a constant work. It's constantly you putting in the effort for yourself and within yourself,
Yeah.
and having that dialogue within yourself is having an open dialogue with yourself and just continuously keep working at it. When you do slip into that space where it's like you look at your bank account and you're seeing it and you're like, oh snap, and then you know that the bills need to get paid at the end of the month, and it's all these things, but don't get caught up in that lack mindset, because that's what you're going to start attracting. You're going to keep
Yeah.
attracting that same situation. And the moment, as you mentioned, if you can express gratitude for the 20 rand that you do have in your bank account,
Yeah.
then you'll start attracting more 20 rands, hopefully. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and that's what it's all about. It's just, yeah, just being grateful and also just letting it unfold, letting the process unfold, and not getting caught up in what's happening, and just remember that you're divinely guided. Everything is happening in accordance with the universe. You're the co-creator. If you want something, make it happen. Ask, put it out there. You're also not alone. I think we get so caught up believing that we're alone,
Yeah.
but there are so many beautiful beings that are rooting for us. And yeah,
Yeah. Absolutely.
that's what it's about.
It's really not as complicated as many, many people make it out to be. If you are showing up as authentically as you can, as humbly as you can, with as much love and compassion for yourself, then you are on the right track. And it doesn't need to look perfect. Spirituality and being a human being, trying to embody consciousness is not a perfect, the job was never to attain perfection. It was about trying to be as authentic as you possibly can be in the now moment, from now moment to now moment. How can I be the best version of myself stepping into potential? And it was never, ever about being perfect. And that's why we are all
100%.
perfectly perfect. And we were created that way. And the moment that you recognize that as beings of God, we are intrinsically whole, we are intrinsically worthy, we are intrinsically sacred. We are just by being ourselves. We are intrinsically those things. It removes a lot of pressure around trying to obtain something we already are in our innate organic nature. You know, it's just that we need to remember that we are those things, which is more difficult.
Yeah, 100%. Beautifully said. Yeah,
Definitely.
awesome.
Oh, well, Kytin, thank you so much for our chat this morning. It was so long overdue. Oh my goodness, man. I'm sure that we're going to have
I
many
know.
more. I mean, there's just like so many things that we could talk about. So many. But we'll definitely have to do another chat sometime soon. But I deeply appreciate you and honor you for all that you're doing and for being the brightest light. So thank you so much for, joining me this morning.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you as well for all the things that you're doing. You know, I tell you all the time, you're such an inspiration, and you motivate me to be a better person. And I appreciate your energy in my life, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing for the consciousness. And just keep at it, and yeah, and also for everyone that's watching as well, just keep on keeping on, and just surrender, trust, and express gratitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to everyone who has joined, and we will obviously share this as a replay so that it reaches all the hearts that need to hear the message of everything that we've been speaking about. And ultimately, the truth is that we are all walking each other home, and that we are a soul family. And the more that we can remember to unite rather than divide, the greater our quest will be in success. Be a success. But I'm sending you so much love, and I hope you have the most beautiful rest of your day, Kytin.
Thank you so much. You as well. Much love and blessings to
You
you.
as well. Take care. Bye.
Awesome. Cheers, cheers. Goodbye. Then.